Welcome back to the WKNS. This is episode number 2, where we are going to be working around Kempton for the most part. And the first thing that you'll notice here is that we are in Trainz. I am not in Trainz 2019 anymore. I've made the decision to roll this back from Trainz 2019 into Trainz, so that way more people will have access to this route when it's complete. And then once I finish it for Trainz, then I can roll it up to Trainz 2019, make another video on that, make the adjustments that are necessary to bring it into 19, add PBR textures and turf effects grass and that kind of stuff, and then I can release 2 versions of it, and then more people can get it. So I thought that was the way to do it. I don't know why I didn't do that right from the get-go, but here we are, and back in Trainz. And I'm kind of happy that I did that, actually, because I have more assets already downloaded in a new era than I do in 19, so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of navigate what I'm going to be using and find stuff. So for the most part, I'm pretty happy with that. Rolling it back was not too much of an issue because I had only laid track and roads, so I only had to change out a couple of QIDs and update them to actually work in Trainz. If I had done like scenicking and stuff like that in 19 and then tried to roll it back into Trainz, it would have not worked at all. So anyway, what are we doing today? The first thing I was trying to do here is outline some of the farm areas and get some shapes laid out so I kind of knew what I was doing or where I needed to scenic. And the first thing I wanted to do was try to copy and paste some trees around so I can get some thick forested areas. And the first thing I noticed was that I can't copy and paste because the UTM tiles are in the way. So if you're trying to work on a large route like this, actually this isn't really that large, but if you're trying to work on a route that is a DEM and has UTM tiles, you will not be able to copy and paste anything because it considers the UTM tile an asset that cannot be pasted on top of, I guess. I don't know. So essentially my game plan from here going forward is to get the areas shaped out, get all the roads laid out. Obviously all the track is already done. All of the main infrastructure, creeks, roads, bridges, and then the shapes of where all the farms are. And then I'm going to delete the UTM tiles, and then I can paste in groups of trees to actually forest some areas. So I don't know how well that is going to work. Time will sort of tell how that's going. I'm a little bit ahead in terms of the build. I'm about 3 episodes ahead right now. So I do have some large areas scenicked, and sort of what I've been doing is creating a perimeter of trees, and then I'll just fill in the rest later. But I don't want to talk ahead of myself because then I won't have anything to talk about in those videos. So for the most part with this Kempton area, I'm trying to get the main I guess outline and the main subject there. I've got the station in place, and this is the closest station I could find on the download station to match the actual station, and trying to get some of the main bits here. And then I'm going to come back later and do some higher detail passovers. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on details at the moment. I want to get as much of this route complete from end to end, and then I'll come back and do a lot more of the detail stuff. I do get into some detail things here and there, but not too much. For the most part, it's just the big broad brush strokes that I'm starting with, and then I'll work my way down to the finer details later on. And for me, when I'm working with a DEM, it's a little bit challenging. It's more challenging for me to work with something that is based in real life than something that is completely fictional and drew up in my mind. And for some reason, I really get hung up on making it exact. Like, I'm sitting here watching videos of cab rides on the WKNS and looking at photos, and I'm trying to match, like, literally down to every blade of grass, and I really get hung up on that. So this build has been kind of a slow start for me. I'm finally starting to get into a rhythm. I know what assets I'm going to use. I know what trees I'm going to use. I'm a little bit more familiar with the route in terms of what buildings are where. A lot of the stuff is going to be switched out as I go forward. As I continue to detail things, I'll come back and replace some of the buildings. So kind of think of a lot of the stuff that I'm putting down as placeholders for a little while, because as I learn more about this route and I study it and look at photos and videos and stuff like that, I'm going to come back and reshape things and find buildings that are a little bit more appropriate and stuff like that. So for now, consider a lot of this just placeholders, and we'll come back and detail it and add stuff that's a little bit more appropriate. But as what I was saying was that when I'm working on like a DEM or when I'm working with a real life thing, I get really stuck on trying to make everything exactly perfect. And because of that, this sort of had a bit of a slow start when I got going, and I found myself just staring at the map and staring at photos for a long time until I finally got, I don't know, enough steam going and was just like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to take some artistic liberties here. It's not going to be perfect. And I always go through this. Anytime I start a new build that is a dem, I go through this where I could just get totally stuck. But now I'm going full steam ahead. I've got an idea of what I'm doing, and I'm really happy with how things are shaping up. There's lots of farmland around here, so that's kind of making things a little bit easier because I could just lay out these big crop, sections and just shape up the trees and the tree line and that sort of thing. So I don't have to spend a tremendous amount of time trying to match up details for like a city or something like that. And that's just so time consuming for me. So this is a little bit easier. It's nicer. It's a breath of fresh air for me to be able to work on something like this that is allowing me to experiment a little bit more with some more scenic elements and seeing what works and what doesn't work. It's going to be very interesting to port this back up into Trainz 2019. I'll tell you that much, because I don't really know what to expect. I'm trying to use assets that I know should work fine in Trainz 2019, or assets and textures that I know have PBR variants in 19. So hopefully when I get there, it won't be such a stretch to replace the stuff that needs to be replaced. But I'm not holding my breath. I'll find out when I get there. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on the Tain build and get this thing complete. And man, it's a cool little build. It's a cool route. I'm really enjoying it. I was kind of skeptical at first when I looked it up. I mean, Steve pointed it out to me and he was like, hey, you do the route, I'll make the engine and update, the rolling stock and equipment, and we can have like a little collab sort of thing. So yeah, by the way, he's making the little steamer for this. So it's gonna be cool. It's awesome. And I looked it up and I was like, yeah, this actually seems kind of cool. It's like a small route in Pennsylvania, and I seem to have an affinity for modeling stuff in Pennsylvania. So I was like, yeah, sure. And then as I'm building it, the more I'm doing it, the more excited I am at getting into it. And the way it's looking so far is just super, super cool. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad that I picked it up. But this is the last clip coming up. Or this is the last clip. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you guys are enjoying it, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And if you've ever been here, let me know and shoot me some photos or something like that. But no cinematics for this episode. We're going to wait until the end of the series to do some cinematics. So this is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.